Hey all, this is David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be talking about the final battle, your final session in a campaign, whether that's a long-running or a short-running campaign, and especially the concept of epilogues. Now this is something that I've had to deal with just once, really, that I ran a campaign that had a really satisfactory conclusion. It was our 2-year-long campaign. Legends of the Seven Sands, really excellent campaign. And of course, I recognize the fact that it's very important that your campaign have a well-defined beginning, middle, and end. And I've done a video on that, on the 3-act structure in RPGs, which I stole the idea, of course, from John Large. So check my video out, check his video out. It's a very important concept, and it's very important that you have some kind of ending to your campaign, some kind of catharsis, so that we know it's over. You can say the end. You have the satisfactory resolution that you've succeeded or you've failed, but one way or the other, it's all over and done with, and you can move on without having all this baggage from the past dragging you down. So it's very important. Of course, planning out that final battle scene. Make it big, make it epic, make people die. Don't be afraid to let people die, whether they're good guys or bad guys or innocent bystanders or what have you. Don't be afraid to destroy things, because for me, I've seen people and they kind of want to keep their setting intact, but not for me, because we're never coming back to this setting. We're going to blow this piece up. And if we come back to it, we'll deal with what's been destroyed, or we'll reboot the whole thing, whatever we're deciding on. So, destroy the whole city, collapse the tower, split the continents, flood the valley, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to make it big, bombastic, make it memorable, make it important, for these, especially for these final scenes, to really show the power that you're dealing with in the game. So make it also, in addition to having these big cinematic effects, make sure it's very personal, that all the emotional stories are resolved successfully, that you've made your final decisions, you made peace with these decisions. So if you've been trying to redeem one of the bad guys and he's coming through and he's maybe seeing the light, make sure that the campaign ends with him making a decision either to reject the light or to embrace it. Don't leave any loose threads, if at all possible. Cut all those loose threads right off, finish it out, make it smooth, make it slick for everyone's long-term memory. Because it's very important. Don't leave anything ambiguous. Don't leave them wondering why. Because then they're going to want a sequel, or they're going to want to revisit it, they're going to want to debate it. Don't leave any of that. End it, so that you can move on to something new, and something that's going to be just as good but different. I can think of a lot of movies that left these loose threads all over the place. Not usually good movies, and this is one of the reasons why. If you look at, I just watched 300: Dawn of an Empire, and the resolution between the two protagonists, whose names have jumped out of my head, but the resolution between these two protagonists was not satisfactory to me. That the male lead, the female lead, they were on opposite sides. They clearly had a lot of passion for each other, however, and the fact that either one could have switched sides, or they could have fought each other to the death and resolved it that way, as this great tragedy of killing your own love in the name of your country. Any one of those, 3 resolutions, or even them coming together and then leaving, although that would be, and then leaving the battle behind, although that would be out of character, it's still a possibility. So any one of those 3 main resolutions, though, would have been great. You would have had catharsis, and you would have had a resolution. Instead, they were just kind of fighting, and then one of them just died. And she never got to make the choice about if she was deciding to commit to her country before her personal feelings. She never got to make that choice. She was undecided when she died. So the whole storyline building up to her decision was wasted. And that was the whole story of the movie. So all the emotional impact of the movie was wasted right there. And so was his, because his emotional journey was dependent on her. And when she was removed, his story had no ending either, in a different way. So because of that, all the build-up was great, but without the climax, the whole movie suffered. And I think that's why a lot of the reviews said it's just cinematic, it's just violence, it's just CGI, it's just special effects. There was no emotional story. I would say there was, it just didn't have an ending. It wasn't resolved. It wasn't satisfactory. It was a shaggy dog story. So that really, really hurt the movie. And it could have been so great if they played it up. Especially since at least the female lead, the actress was very strong. So she could have done a lot with that if someone had written the part for her to do so. But the director, I don't know if the director just didn't want to make a decision, if he was afraid to, or what happened. But don't let that be your game. Don't build up to something that never happens. Build up to something and then have the climax. Blow it up. Make the decision. Have everyone be, at the end of the day, set in stone about their motivation, what they're going to do. Now, all through the campaign, there should not be set in stone. They should be discovering, exploring, considering, pondering, maneuvering. You're never quite sure. You know where they're moving towards, but you're never quite sure where they're going to eventually end up. Until you hit that end game, they all become solid, like concrete setting. And then you have the stage set for the final battle and the catharsis. You knew where everything was at the end of the day, and now you know who prevailed in the end as well. So that's what I've got to say about the end game, the final session. Try to incorporate all these elements, that it's emotionally gripping, and that it's got the cinematic aspect to make it a bigger-than-life kind of battle. And it should contrast against your previous battles. Ideally, the previous battles would be more mundane, and this is your one chance to go over the top. Don't go over the top right off the bat. Slowly build up to it. Make each battle more climactic than the last, until finally you've got one that's a little bit ridiculous, at least, and then that'll depend on your idea of ridiculous. I know Craig Uberoth loves ridiculousness, and he'll bust it out, dial it all the way up to 10, very first session, and then he has nowhere to go but down. I like to slowly build up myself. But then again, my campaigns run for about a year or 2 years, and his are only like 4 or 5 sessions. Possibly because he has nowhere to go after that 4 or 5 sessions. But I digress. The other thing I want to talk about is the epilogue. So after you say the end, go around the table. Anyone who's left standing, get them to narrate what happened to your character after the story ended. We had great success with this in Legends of the Seven Sands. It went through to Mike, and he described how he became the Pharaoh through intricate series of assassinations and political marriages. And it was a great epilogue. I'm not a big fan of Mike, but he really did a great job with that. And then we went through to Aaron had a great epilogue in a totally different way, where he's at my character having nothing further to do to occupy his time. He just gets married to a trophy bride, and he gets really drunk and really fat. And he lets himself get out of shape, and he just eats all the time, and he's always at the brothels, and eventually he gets so fat and so drunk that his horse throws him off, and he breaks his neck and he dies. And it was a great comedic kind of epilogue. It fit Aaron's character great. Aaron's character is a little more comedic, a little more cheesy, over the top. Great contrast to Mike's very serious and political epilogue. And then we came through to Josh, and Josh said how he wandered into the desert to contemplate the futility of war, and he had this, it was a great scene that he painted. So great epilogue. And then we cut to Rick, and Rick's like, I wander into the desert after Josh to continue our adventures together. And that's when Josh blew up, out of character, because Rick and Josh had major friction, where Rick was constantly annoying Josh and following him around. And to have him, in his epilogue, Josh removed himself from everything to get away from everything, because he was so fed up with it, in and out of character. And then Rick just follows him, like, oh no, you never get away, never escape. So Josh blew up, and they had a big confrontation out of the game. Almost saw them roll initiative for real. So that was unfortunate. But the game itself, this was one of the reasons we ended the game, because I saw this coming. But the game itself had catharsis, had an ending, and it was a great ending. It was like a 3-4 session battle. 50 NPCs died. So like a third of the cast just died during the battle. And everyone got their epilogue. They got the final confrontation with the evil high priest, where he finally revealed his plans to them, which they hadn't known about. And Josh's character got to say, aha, I was right the whole time, you really are evil. And the high priest is like, I believe that you are the one who is truly evil. And Josh is like, whatever. And they fought, but everybody had a great catharsis, and ended, and it was final. And we could look back on it as a complete work, with beginning, with middle, with an end, with a climax, with a denouement, and with epilogues. So that's what I want out of every campaign. I think you should definitely experiment with it as well, because I've seen so many campaigns just fizzle out. There's no ending, no resolution. And it drives me nuts. I go crazy when I don't know the end of a story, because then what's the point of the beginning and the middle? To me, there is none then. That's that's hack writing. That's just teasing it out forever, without actually having any resolution. Gilligan's Island style. They're still on the island, or Lost in Space style, where they're still lost in space. And for some genres, it might fit. Star Trek, they just keep exploring forever. The end. That's a great ending for Star Trek. But most campaigns are going to be better off with an actual ending. Unless you're just wandering empty sandbox style, no narrative, no beginning, middle, and end, just different adventures every week, no point, completely episodic. That's not my style. I really like the structure to make it a more literary style of game, more storytelling, more craftsmanship, more artful than just we're just gonna have a dungeon every week. But those are my thoughts on ending a game, how to do it well, and also the epilogue, which I think is a great idea, and you should definitely add that on to every ending that you're going to do. So I'm going to sign off now. Everybody have a good day. Cheers.